G'day, ZiggyD here, and the data mining continues. Sometime over the last 12 hours, a bunch of info on new skills and balance changes to existing skills was uncovered, and this also includes a lot of skills for the Crusader. But in this video, I just want to talk about the Demon Hunter new skills, and also maybe just a few of the balance changes overall. But if you want to check out some discussion on the Barbarian skill changes and how they'll affect things like Whirlwind Barbarians, I highly recommend you check out Moldrin's recent video, which I will link in the description below, and I'll also link the full Datamined info on all of these skills for you guys to peruse, because there's a lot of different balance changes in there, and some of which are pretty interesting. But I want you guys to keep in mind for this video that all of this stuff is not even in alpha yet, and all of it is likely to change, but it still gives us a good indication of where Blizzard is trying to head with each of these skills. So, let's just make sure I've actually got my notes here for what skills are coming. And first up, we have 3 new passives for the Demon Hunter. There's 3 new passives and 1 new skill so far. I'm hoping they add more, because these aren't too interesting, and maybe I'll probably give 2 of them a little bit of a try, but overall not too interesting, but I hope they add some more, and they may well do so. But let's take a look at the passives first. I can't bring them up in the passives menu because they're not in the game yet. But first up, we have Single Out, which gives gain 20% critical hit chance against enemies who are more than 20 yards away from other enemies. Pretty niche sounding, huh? So basically this is going to work against bosses and in PvP. It's not really going to work in PvE. You're going to have to kill everything else around a mob for it to become effective, and that's just not helpful. However, that said, there is new challenge modes coming, and some of those might involve hunting down certain specific mobs that are by themselves, perhaps. Maybe, I don't know, maybe it's just a PvP passive, but overall probably not too useful. The next passive is Awareness, which gain 4% dodge chance every second. This bonus is reset 1 second after you successfully dodge an attack. Now, this sounds an awful lot like Sharpshooter. Gain 3% crit chance every second, and this bonus is reset 1 second after you successfully critically hit. Sharpshooter is more popular than it should be because it boosts your sheet DPS by quite a lot. This is kind of the same. However, I think it's a little bit more useful than Sharpshooter. Currently, I have something like 50% dodge on my Demon Hunter, 47, and that's just off stacking the normal amount of decks that you get to try and get your DPS up a bit, but that's gonna bring your average up. It's a little bit, it's 4%, I believe, 4% per second, and you have that 1 second grace period as well, so after you dodge an attack you can potentially dodge another attack, and this overall will bring your average up maybe to something like 60% or something like that, depending on how often you dodge already. But extra dodge is pretty powerful. It's our main defensive stat, basically, as a Demon Hunter. Being able to dodge, 60-70% of attacks instead of 50 might help a little bit, but personally, I can't think of a passive I would want to sacrifice for it, so probably not too useful, but maybe it'll become more useful with some of the new gear that we start to see, perhaps. The next one is called Takeoff, and I actually really quite like this one. Gain 20% movement speed increase for every second you remain stationary, stacking up to 3 times. This bonus is reset 5 seconds after you move. So this means, if you stand and fight for 1, 2, 3, you will have 60% move speed to get to the next pack for 5 seconds. 60% move speed for 5 seconds is huge. That's pretty impressive. I quite like that. And it also combos with the next active skill I'll talk about in a second as well. But I can see certain builds using this one. The current farming setup that I'm using is something like my skills are kind of messed up at the moment, but something like a ball lightning build where you are essentially farming like this, just constantly shooting and scooting, and occasionally desyncing backwards. But overall, that's not gonna help in that sort of build because you're never standing still long enough to actually use it. But if you're playing a more of a tanky build, maybe you have some caltrops, some sentries, some grenades and things like that. With grenades especially, what you're going to do is you're going to stand there and fight for a couple seconds. Maybe it takes you 3 seconds to burst down an elite pack, or a pack of trash mobs on MP10, if you can get to MP10 on a Demon Hunter. Anyway, maybe in the patch, maybe in the expansion pack, that might happen. But you stand there and fight for 3 seconds, then you're going to have 60% move speed to get to the next pack. Essentially, this replaces Vault. So, you sacrifice a passive, you gain a kind of passive vault Because currently we use vault to get between packs, essentially. You know, we vault between the packs. That was an awesome double vault. And, you know, that's what we use as our mobility skill to increase our farming speed. This will replace that, freeing up an active skill slot for something else, perhaps a DPSing sort of skill. So pretty cool. It allows us a little bit more flexibility in the build. But now let's talk about the next active skill, because it actually combos with this a little bit. Shadow Wall. Cooldown of 10 seconds. Summon a wall impassable by enemies between 2 pillars for 6 seconds. Enemies near the pillars are slowed by 60%. Now the reason I'm heading out here is because I'm going to use our friendly Mr. Arrow Shot zombies here to act as pillars for this particular demonstration. So essentially, pretend these 2 zombies are pillars, or, you know, fence posts. When you use this skill, it throws down 2 of these posts, and between them is an impassable wall. Now, around these posts, here and here, enemies are slowed by up to 60%. Well, 60%. So basically this means if you have mobs on this side, they're going to hit the wall, try and get around to you, because they're going to always try and take the shortest route, as the AI is. Then what they'll do is they'll funnel off to either side, and as they're moving around here, they'll also be slowed, so they're going to be stuck there for quite a while. Now, this is pretty interesting in a few ways. Firstly, it combos really well with Takeoff, because you're going to be, your mobs are going to be trapped, you're going to be pretty safe, you're going to be able to shoot and kill them while they're on the other side of that wall. Then after 3 seconds, which is the time it might take to kill them, you can, you know, continue running. And yeah, that's pretty cool. But let's talk about some of the runes, because that makes it more interesting. Great Wall increases the maximum width of the wall, pretty standard, nothing much to say there. Buffer Zone is one that I think will probably see a fair bit of use and is pretty interesting. Enemies between you and the wall, or where you cast the wall, are knocked back past the wall when you summon it. So let's say I'm standing over here, there's a pack of elites here, I throw the wall down on the other side of the pack of the elites, they're all knocked back past the wall. Firstly, that's going to look hilarious when you do it on charging bulls and things like that in Act 1, but secondly, it's going to give you that buffer zone, it's going to keep them over there. Pretty useful stuff, and I think they'll probably see a fair bit of use. Next up is Wall of Pain, which makes the wall not impassable anymore, so enemies can pass through it. But essentially, it slows the movement speed of enemies by 60% still as they're passing through the wall, and causes them to take 15% additional damage from your attacks. So I can see this being pretty viable, because they're still slowed and they're kind of stuck there. They're going to be bunched up. You can burst them down and then, you know, move on. And you get extra damage is always nice. Next up, Electric Fence. Rather than an impassable wall, create an electric fence that discharges 1 second after an enemy enters it, stunning all enemies near the field for 3 seconds. So this is essentially 100% guaranteed 3-second stun, which is pretty powerful. But you're not really going to use this like you normally use the skill. I'm not going to place this here to prevent mobs from reaching me, because the first mob's going to get into it, stun it, and probably half the pack's not even going to get stunned. But what you are going to do is throw this down on a rare, throw this down on an elite pack, actually throw it on top of them, and then they will get stunned, and you get a guaranteed 100% 3-second stun, which is really powerful, and I can see it being used that just as a skill you throw down on top of them, which kind of seems to go against the design, the aesthetic design of the skill that I imagine, but still, should be still pretty useful. And then the final one, combos really well with Takeoff. Gain 30% move speed for 3 seconds when you pass through the wall. So now we throw down the wall here, enemies are on this side, we spend 3 seconds shooting them, buffing our move speed up to 60% from Takeoff. Then we run through the gate, increasing our move speed by another 30%, taking it up to 90% for, you know, for 3 seconds, and then we still have the extra 2 seconds or so of 60% move speed. That's enough time to get to the next pack for sure. Pretty cool stuff. I can see myself playing around with those 2 skills. It should be pretty fun. But, you know, I'll probably replace Vault, essentially, with Speed Gate, and use that alone, and maybe I'll also use Takeoff on one of my passives, and change my build maybe to some sort of Grenadier spec or something like that, because having them all bunched up on the wall with grenades, especially with one of the grenade balance changes that you guys will see in the notes is, grenades are, you throw out 5 of them now, is what I'm trying to say. So instead of, you know, just throwing out one here, one here, and one here, you're now going to have a pretty good spread, I reckon, which is going to cover the wall. Because one of the inherent problems with this Shadow Wall skill that I think is if I'm using something like a lightning arrow and shooting through the middle, mobs are going to start funneling off to either side. Now they're likely going to funnel off to either side and not just one side. So if you start firing the mobs that are going around this side, you're only going to be damaging them, and these mobs are still going to come up around behind you without taking any damage. That's not what you want. You want mobs to be bunched up. However, with grenades, I think this skill will work really well because you'll have that spread, especially with the new cluster rune, which has increased AoE on top of the extra 5 grenades as well. So you'll be able to cluster down those mobs on the other side. And that is probably going to be the first build I'm going to make as Demon Hunter and Reaper of Souls, I have to admit. Throwing down this wall, throwing down cluster grenades on top of them, sprinting through the wall, getting 90% move speed, that sounds like a hell of a lot of fun. But I just wanted to mention a few of the other, the ideas of balance changes. Overall, we're seeing a lot of damage buffs on underused skills, pretty good stuff. A few passives are changing. Archery is removing some damage from the bows, which I don't really know why, because it's not really that powerful, I don't think. But our hand crossbow is getting only 5% crit chance now, but it's also getting, on the second hand crossbow, on your offhand, you're getting 1 extra hatred generation, so you get an extra benefit there. Grenadier, in line with a lot of the grenade changes, is increasing damage and explosion size by 40%, and the death grenade, it now also deals 1,000%, which is going to be hilarious in PvP when a barb kills you or something and then it dies from 1,000% grenade damage. But pretty cool stuff. A lot of skills are getting cheaper, a lot of different rune changes. It's way too much to go over in one video, so go check those out. But overall, the Demon Hunter seems to be staying about where it is in terms of playstyle. I think Blizzard's pretty happy with how the Demon Hunter currently plays, and we're just getting a few buffs to lesser used skills and a few changes to runes. Like some runes are actually being replaced that just currently aren't used, and some of the skill changes as well, having the runes changed to reflect that as well. Overall, Demon Hunter staying kind of where it is, just getting a little bit better in a few areas, and we should see a few extra builds come out of it as well. Especially some of the hatred costing skills are getting a little bit more powerful as well, which is pretty exciting. Anyway, that's it for now. Make sure you check out Maldron's video if you're interested in barbs. If you want me to make some other videos on some of the other changes or something like that, maybe we'll talk about it in a podcast or something. But that's it for now. I'm ZiggyD, and thanks for watching.